Imagine a world on fire. That was World War II. From 1939 to 1945, nations clashed in a brutal conflict. It was a fight for freedom and a fight against tyranny. Millions of soldiers and civilians were caught in the crossfire. The stakes had never been higher. The fate of the world hung in the balance. This global war had two main sides. On one side were the Axis powers, led by Germany, Italy, and Japan. These nations sought to expand their empires, often through brutal force. Opposing them were the Allies. This alliance included powerful nations like Great Britain, the United States, and the Soviet Union. The early years of the war saw the Axis powers making significant gains. Their armies were powerful and relentless. They conquered vast territories across Europe, Asia, and Africa. But the tide began to turn. The Allied forces, fueled by a shared desire for peace and freedom, rallied. The world watched as the forces of democracy clashed with the forces of fascism. Every battle, every campaign was a step closer to determining the fate of humanity. This was a fight the world could not afford to lose. By 1944, the tide of the war was turning. The once seemingly invincible Axis forces were now on the defensive. Allied forces, strengthened by American industrial might and Soviet resolve, began pushing back on multiple fronts. The liberation of Europe was on the horizon, but the path to victory would be paved with sacrifice. The German war machine, though battered, was far from broken. Hitler's forces, driven by a potent mix of fanaticism and desperation, fought with ferocity. The Battle of Normandy, the largest seaborne invasion in history, marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. Allied soldiers stormed the beaches of Normandy, France, facing fierce resistance. It was a chaotic and bloody affair. Yet they persevered, establishing a foothold in Nazi-occupied Europe. This victory paved the way for the liberation of France and the eventual march towards Germany. The Eastern Front, a theatre of war often overshadowed by events in Western Europe, played a crucial role in the Allied victory. Here, the Soviet Union bore the brunt of the Nazi war machine. Millions of Soviet soldiers and civilians perished in the bitter fighting. The liberation of Paris in August 1944 was a turning point. The City of Lights, under Nazi occupation for 4 long years, was free once more. This victory symbolized the waning power of the Nazi regime and invigorated the Allied forces. Despite these setbacks, the Axis powers fought on. The Battle of the Bulge, a desperate German counter-offensive in the winter of 1944, was a testament to their tenacity. They aimed to split the Allied lines and stall their advance. The battle raged for weeks in the Ardennes forest, a brutal struggle amidst the snow and cold. However, the Allied forces, though caught off guard, held their ground. Their resilience, coupled with the dwindling resources and manpower of the Germans, ultimately led to the failure of the offensive. This marked the last major German offensive on the Western Front. The road to Berlin was open. Allied forces pushed into the heart of Germany, encountering fierce resistance every step of the way. Yet they were undeterred. The end was in sight. The world held its breath, anticipating the fall of the Nazi regime. Section 4. The Pacific Theater. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, a different kind of war raged. In the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, the United States and Japan clashed in a brutal island-hopping campaign. The Japanese, entrenched on numerous islands, fought with unwavering tenacity. Battles like Iwo Jima and Okinawa were etched in history with the blood of thousands of soldiers. These islands, strategically important for their proximity to mainland Japan, became battlegrounds of unimaginable brutality. The Japanese soldiers, indoctrinated with a code of honor that scorned surrender, fought to the death. The Battle of Iwo Jima, in particular, captured the ferocity of the Pacific War. On this small volcanic island, American Marines faced relentless Japanese defenders. The iconic image of Marines raising the American flag atop Mount Suribachi became a symbol of American determination and the human cost of war. Section 5. Leaders and Heroes. World War II was a conflict defined by its leaders and heroes. Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, rallied his nation with his stirring speeches and unwavering belief in victory. His leadership during Britain's darkest hour proved instrumental in bolstering the Allied resolve. Across the Atlantic, President Franklin D. Roosevelt led the United States out of the Great Depression and into the war. He understood the grave threat posed by the Axis powers and committed the full industrial and military might of the United States to the fight. On the battlefield, countless acts of bravery and sacrifice became the stuff of legend. Ordinary men and women, thrust into extraordinary circumstances, displayed courage and resilience in the face of unimaginable horrors. Their stories serve as a reminder of the human cost of war and the indomitable spirit that shines brightest in the darkest of times. Section 6. The Atomic Dawn and the End of an Era. As the Allied forces closed in on Berlin, the war in Europe was reaching its climax. Soviet troops fought their way into the city, engaging in brutal street-to-street combat. On April 30, 1945, Hitler committed suicide in his underground bunker, marking the end of his reign of terror. Just days later, on May 8, 1945, Germany surrendered unconditionally to the Allied forces. Victory in Europe, long fought and hard won, was finally declared. The world rejoiced, but the war was not yet over. In the Pacific, the conflict with Japan raged on. In a move that would forever alter the course of human history, the United States unleashed a new weapon of unimaginable destructive power, the atomic bomb. On August 6, 1945, an American B-29 bomber dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan, instantly killing tens of thousands of people. 3 days later, another atomic bomb devastated Nagasaki. Section 7. A world forever changed. The use of atomic bombs brought a swift and decisive end to the war in the Pacific. Japan surrendered to the Allies on August 15, 1945, marking the end of World War II. The world, weary from years of conflict, could finally breathe a collective sigh of relief. The legacy of World War II continues to shape the world today. The war had a profound impact on the global political order, leading to the formation of the United Nations, a body dedicated to maintaining international peace and security. It also marked the beginning of the Cold War, a decades-long ideological conflict between the United States and the Soviet Union. The horrors of World War II served as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked nationalism, aggression, and intolerance. The war led to significant advancements in technology and medicine, but it also left an indelible scar on the human psyche. The stories of courage, sacrifice, and resilience from this conflict continue to inspire generations. As we navigate the complexities of the 21st century, the lessons learned from World War II remain as relevant as ever.